All right, Bulls and Bears, BX4 News back in the building, back with another dose. Ride the bull, prepare for the bear. There is no bear. Everything's just going up forever. Market's going to go up forever. Housing prices are going to go up forever. No bear. So ride the bull, but don't prepare for the bear because the bear is never going to get here. That's what a lot of people are saying. They're saying this is never going to change. Nothing's ever going to stop the trajectory of the economy, which is inflationary, the cost of living inflationary. But I beg to differ, and I'm going to lay out some more evidence today that says that we're in for a lot of changes coming up, not in the near future. I mean, now. It's happening now with everything that we're seeing right now with the cuts, the layoffs, the talks of ending agencies that have been around for decades. And this is going to ripple through the economy in a lot of different ways. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to try to have a little more fun, some lighter content today. So hopefully you guys like this. Please make sure you're subscribed. Keep this channel alive. Thank you very much. Let's go ahead and get started. Now, what do we have recently in the economy? We have a consumer now that's starting to be very, very cautious. And in fact, they're pulling back on spending. Now, part of that is because people are loaded up on so much debt. Credit card balances are already so high. I think people are starting to pull back now on things that they don't need, and they're buying the must-haves versus the wants, right? The have-to-haves versus the wants. But here we go. Here's a headline out of Fast Company. Here's how they put it. Tariff threats and job cuts shake consumer confidence. A report finds new data show that consumers slashed their spending by the most since February 2021. That's 4 years, folks. Even as their incomes rose. So why would this be happening? Why would the average consumer, U.S. worker, middle-class person, why would the average person care about federal layoffs? If they're not a federal employee, why would they care? Are they forward-thinking so much that they think this is going to have a ripple effect on the economy, kind of like we anticipate here on this channel? Are most people forward-thinking? Are they thinking that? I don't think so. I think what a lot of people don't realize is that the federal workers that a lot of them are losing their jobs right now, and we're going to talk about some of the brutal type of job cuts that are happening, more new recent ones. The federal workers really, there's 3 million federal workers. Basically, they helped prop up the economy. What we just found out, maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago, that the top 10% accounted for 50% of consumer spending. And when you look at the gross domestic product, the GDP data as we know it, 50%, the top 10%, they make so much money, they have so much extra money to spend, versus the bottom 90%. They make up 50% of basically the spending, which is most of what GDP is. It's spending. And a lot of it is debt-driven spending. But the other half, sure, a lot of the top 10% are taking out loans and borrowing money also, but a lot of the top 10% have a lot more cash to spend. So that's where the big drop-off is coming. The drop-off in spending, I think, is the people that are actually either laid off or worried about getting laid off, because we know, again, these top 10% people, top 10% income earners is what we mean by that. They are propping up the economy with about half of the GDP, and if they're worried about their job being cut, or they've already lost their job, they're going to pull back in spending. So I think that's something that nobody else is talking about here. And maybe you've heard this somewhere before. Please let me know down in the comments. Or if you haven't heard about this, please let me know if it makes sense. Am I connecting the dots? Or am I cuckoo, crazy? I mean, please let me know. But let's move on to some other stuff here. Take a look at the, the brutality, the boldness of these layoffs. Ahead of layoffs, Education Department offers $25,000 to quit or retire by Monday. Talk about a deadline. The offer came ahead of what the agency's chief human resources officer described as a very significant looming workforce reduction. So $25,000, little chunk of change, but how far will it get you if you're in a home where your mortgage payment is $3,000, $4,000, $5,000? And, you might only get by a couple months on $25,000 in some areas, depending on how far in debt you are. And you'll probably get unemployment on top of that. So you have to factor that in there, but that's pretty brutal. Quit or retire by Monday. Wow. And there's talk right now that this entire department is going to get the axe. It's going to be eliminated. U.S. Department of Education top resource official, a one-time offer to all staffers ahead of what she called impending work reduction. We're pleased to offer employees up to $25,000 voluntary separation incentive payments starting today, including those who wish to retire. So that would be kind of a okay position to be in. You're going to be retiring, or maybe you were thinking about retiring and you haven't told anybody yet. And now this comes along. Okay, well, there's definitely some incentive to retire. Take an extra $25,000, retire early. But if you're just starting your career, it's kind of a shocker, and you're going to have to go look for other jobs. But $25,000, may be a significant to someone that doesn't have a big overhead or a high mortgage. Maybe somebody living at home. Maybe somebody that has a spouse that works. All right, moving on here. More layoffs in the news, folks. Forever 21 to lay off 350 workers and shut down LA headquarters as store closures continue. A bankruptcy lawyer. Chapter 11 liquidation appears to be the most likely scenario for Forever 21. I've never shopped there. Forever 21, but not forever in business. All right, moving on here again. Subprime auto delinquencies hit a record. There's the key word right there. A record high. So worse than the financial crisis, folks. A record high. So where is the price plunge that so many people were talking about, right? I said here, they're probably going to keep this bubble propped up with just infinite amounts of money, right? Just helicopter money. And that's what we've seen so far. We've seen the money velocity just explode with the way money's being loaned out, the way people can still borrow money and get loans, even though these debt levels are very high and delinquencies are rising. And if you look at subprime auto loans, just hit a record high. But yet banks still loaning out money. We have car lenders and sales entities out there like Carvana still giving out loans to people. And I think it mentions in this article here, some subprime lenders saw bigger jumps. Drive time extension rate shot up from 4.71% to 6.41%, while Carvana's subprime loans jumped from 3.72 to 5.41% delinquencies, but they're still giving out loans. And that's the way the banks are operating right now. They're operating basically with a no fear type of situation, because if they fail or they get into trouble, they're just going to get bought out by a bigger bank. The people running the bank that failed will likely get better jobs, maybe even at a bigger bank. Was it last year we saw someone at one of those failed banks? I believe it was Silicon Valley Bank. One of the banks that actually failed in 2023. One of the people there, one of the CEOs, got a job at a central bank in another country. So these people move on to more better paying jobs in many cases, even after failing. Imagine if you and I could do that at our job, fail so much where we can't keep our job, but yet we get promoted to something even better. Maybe some people have done that, but I see it more often in the banking world than anywhere. Right, let's go into housing, folks. Eviction notices go out to mobile home owners in Yuba, and this is happening in a lot of places. This is just an article I happened to see just recently, and I remember when I first heard the concept of mobile homes. I mean, a long time ago, when I first discovered or learned about mobile homes. Wow, really cool! I can buy a home for $20,000, pay it off in a few years, and be set. I won't have to work anymore. And then I learned about lot rent and how most mobile homeowners never own the land that they sit on. I've pretty much all the time if you're in a park of some sort. And even if you pay off your home, you're still going to have this lot rent that goes up and up and up. And I compare homeowners associations very similarly to lot rent, right? If you have a homeowners association, maybe it's not as much as lot rent, but it's almost like you don't own your home because you have this entity out there that can foreclose on your home if you don't pay the HOA fee, which is not as much as lot rent, but it's still a fee. It's something you have to pay forever, never ends. And in fact, my sister bought a home. It's been, 5 years, 6 years now? She bought a home in a HOA community, and I warned her against it. She's doing okay because home prices have went up, so she can sell her home right now and have like $100,000 left over. So she's okay, but she's not liking the rules. And here's something that just happened. I'll move on to some other news after this. Just wanted to mention this. Something that just happened. She bought a new car. She can only fit 2 cars in her driveway. Her garage is full of junk. So both of her cars are in the driveway. She bought a 3rd car, but has no place to park it because the HOA says you can't park on the street. So what did she do? She parked the 3rd car, and she's going to try to sell one of her older ones, but right now she has 3 cars and no place to park it. So she parked one of her older cars in the guest parking. Within like 2 to 3 hours, she got a call from the HOA. Hey, what are you doing with your car in guest parking? You need to move it. This is for guests. Even though there was like 20 different guest spots that were open, they called her within like a few hours because she was a resident and she parked in the guest parking, even though there was plenty of other parking, right? That's how crazy and how nitpicky HOAs can be. And I've covered here other types of HOA situations where people had to repaint their homes. They had to get a different mailbox because it wasn't up to code. The roof got too old. They had to redo their roof because it looked old, even though it wasn't leaking. It was fine, but because it was a HOA determined it to be an eyesore, they had to get a whole new roof, which is tens of thousands of dollars. I mean, it's crazy. But folks, trailer park people being evicted, even though they own their home. That's the headline. Eviction notices go out to mobile home owners. So you own your home, you think you own your home, but you don't own the land, so you're still getting evicted, right? Craziness. This is what is kind of bothers me about this society right now. Do we ever own anything, ever? All right, and this way of finance, this way of money, it's not just the United States, folks. It's worldwide, right? There's no limitations on how much money that can be created and therefore borrowed into existence, what some people call helicopter money. And look at what's happening out in Australia, right? We had some home prices coming down for a few months. But look what just happened recently. Short-lived downturn in Australia. Short-lived downturn. Home prices in Australia now are rebounding, basically. They went down for a few months, but now they're rebounding. And the short-lived housing downturn is already over, with the shallow 3-month dip almost wiped out by a single month's growth. So the 3 months of price declines, prices went up so fast in the most recent month that it wiped out all those declines, and now home prices are back up to where they were before and moving higher. And how's this possible? That's because we have the same system of banking and money worldwide, where no matter how much debt people get into, no matter how high home prices get, even though unaffordability is at the all-time highs, as long as banks can still loan out money, you're going to have new buyers. You also have a lot of cash buyers, again, the top 10%, a lot of them buying a lot of the homes, keeping home prices propped up. And you have to ask yourself, where are these loans coming from, and why are the banks continuing to give out loans even with home prices in the stratosphere? Another piece of news here, Bloomberg, Besant, that's the Treasury Secretary, says he sees inflation reaching 2%. And here you go again, folks. Even if inflation reaches 2%, it just means prices are going up just only 2% instead of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8%, which is better than those higher numbers, but it means prices are still going up, folks. Somehow Bloomberg wants me to pay for a subscription. I think I'll pass on. And folks, you notice nobody's talking about prices dropping or deflation, which is really the cure to the disease right now that's happening. If the disease is everything's so unaffordable and inflation, the cure would be a drop in prices. But see, when that happens, then the economy really begins to implode, because it's the asset prices being elevated that actually helps accelerate all this money flowing through the economy, right? When people have equity in their homes and when prices are higher in general, you see higher numbers, right? Because higher prices means people are spending more just for basic goods and necessities a lot of times. And that makes the economy look better because they'll point to the money being spent and say, look, the economy's growing. Isn't this great? Well, things are changing real quick, folks, and we're about ready to see, I think, a whole new world economically emerge in the very near future. I'm thinking months here. And then some of you will say, JJ, you've been saying that for years. You've been saying it's right around the corner. It's right around the corner. Folks, look what's already happened, right? We've already been right about the inflation, prices not coming down. And now look what's happening. Massive cuts out of entire agencies being axed. We've never seen what's happening today. We've never seen this. And the ones that I see the most that are most complacent, that they say there's no problems, nothing's wrong, nothing's ever going to change, most of them are the baby boomers who, a lot of them bought their homes back in the 70s, 80s, whatever, 90s. And, they're doing pretty well because their homes are paid off. They've got a low overhead. Their kids are growing up out of the house, or maybe they never had kids. And it's a lot of I think the baby boomers that are most optimistic right now. And I think the ones that are saying that this channel is doom and gloom or that this is negative. Think about if you're one of the older people, think about the younger people just graduating right now, just getting out of school or college, getting your first job, and everything is expensive as it is right now. Imagine yourself in that position where home prices are average or median, let's say median, over $400,000 nationwide. And if you're in California, you're talking, depending on your city, $700,000, $800,000, $900,000. And in many other states as well, very elevated prices. But put yourself in the younger person's shoes, right? I'm not a baby boomer, but I'm also not a young person either. I'm kind of in the middle. But I can see, because I have kids and I talk to people, and you can see and you can hear the fear and the people that are the younger generation, basically. All right, people, a couple more things before we get on out of here today. Coffee maker. I think some coffee shop employees, some Starbucks workers that might be shaking in their boots right now, as automation is doing things like this. Take a look at this. They're even shaking it. It's not much coffee and a lot of cream, a lot of milk. And look at this. They even got the leaf. What is that? Is that a leaf or a heart? That's a leaf. They even got the leaf on the top, folks. Coffee worker can't do that. But I wonder how much one of these things costs, folks. There you go. Apologize. I keep on having to take drinks. I keep on getting congestion on my chest here. I don't know if I'm getting sick or what. But what do you think about this? How long until we see this at the local coffee shop, at the local Starbucks? There's going to have to be people there to maintain these. So there's going to be obviously still some jobs. But I couldn't imagine this taking over the entire workforce. But maybe when you add in benefits, the hourly wages, and the drama and everything else that comes along with having employees, right? You're not going to get harassment claims or people going on strike, or this device is not going to go on strike anyways, unless it breaks down. All right, here's another one. And talking about jobs and getting laid off. And sometimes when you get laid off, and a lot of people are getting laid off now, sometimes when you get laid off, you have to go do a job that you might not like. Imagine this job. Now, unless you really like the type of creatures that are in these drawers, maybe you don't care. But imagine having to do a job like this. Now, this guy doesn't look really bothered by this, but I would be really bothered here. Let me move myself out of the way here. I would be really bothered if I was forced to do a job like this. Look at this. Feeding the snakes. First of all, why are they in drawers? Trying to feed a rat to a snake. That's part of this guy's job. Oh my, if I was unemployed, no way. I would do construction. I would work on a roof. I would do a lot. I would probably clean toilets before doing this. This is insane. And why are these snakes in drawers? Of course they want to get out. Of course these snakes want to get out. They've been in this drawer. How long are they in these drawers for? And how much does this guy make? I mean, come on. You'd have to, even if they paid me 6 figures, not enough. Not enough for that type of terror. My opinion, folks. Maybe you're not scared of these things, but I would be scared to do that, folks. Anyways, let me know what you think about this report. The brutality of these layoffs. $25,000 a year gone by Monday. Is that the one of the reports that we saw today? The mobile home owners getting evicted, folks. The inflation numbers, the car loan delinquencies, subprime delinquencies, all-time high. Will it ever change? Will it ever stop? Are we on the verge of something massive? Or am I just out here repeating the same thing and nothing ever changes? Well, things are changing, folks. Please let me know what you think about all this down in the comments. Subscribe button right there. Please hit that. And the like button. Please make sure you smash that, folks, for me. Again, thank you very much. Talk to everybody soon. Keep stacking. Bye for now.